Hello everyone and welcome to All Things Watched. In this video we are going to talk about the brand new movie, The Marsh King's Daughter, and this movie is considered a crime slash drama slash mystery, and as far as I know it is based on a novel of the same name as well. And I will say straight up that this review is coming from someone who has no experience with the novel. I've never read the novel and I don't know anything about the novel, so the only exposure I have to The Marsh King's Daughter is this movie and only this movie. Excuse me, and that's pretty well it. I do want to apologize real quick. I do have a bit of a head cold, so my voice is a little silly and all that good stuff. So The Marsh King's Daughter mainly stars Daisy Ridley and Ben Mendelsohn, Brooklyn Prince, Gil Birmingham, Karen Pistorius, I believe is how you pronounce the name, and Garrett Hedlund. But really the story really revolves around Daisy Ridley's character and Ben Mendelsohn's character, and I mean I guess you could say it revolves around Joey Carson's character as well, you know, to some degree, but essentially it really revolves around Daisy Ridley and Ben Mendelsohn. And Daisy portrays a character known as Helena, and Ben portrays a character known as Jacob, and the story opens off in a way that seems like it's just an everyday normal family, but still seeming, you know, there seems to be something a little bit off about them. They are living sort of off of, you know, off the grid, out in the middle of nowhere, which, you know, is not completely abnormal. I mean, lots of people do like to unplug and sort of get away from society and sort of live, you know, in a different, just in a different way in general. But what's weird about this family is, of course, the mother. So, you know, the mother doesn't really know, or I mean, I'm sorry, the mother seems very precarious, very, very almost weird, acts very weird around Jacob, which is supposed to be the father and whatnot. And so you can tell right from the get-go that there's something out of place, but you don't really know what, because the daughter Helena, she really likes her father Jacob, so it's almost like the daughter and the father has a great relationship, but maybe there's a little bit of tension between the husband and the wife, you know, which is of course Helena's mom, portrayed by Karen Pistorius, and she does a phenomenal job. In terms of performances, I think everybody does a great job in terms of their acting. Obviously it was great to see Daisy Ridley outside of Star Wars, great to see Ben Mendelsohn again. I love him in everything he does. He played in a movie as well this year with Shailene Woodley, which I believe it was called To Catch a Killer, which was also a really great show. I think To Catch a Killer was much better than this one. But anyways, you know, and you know, as the story progresses, you learn that the dynamic between those three characters is not exactly how it seems. Jacob is Helena's father, so to speak, or I guess he is, but you know, how he ends up, you know, meeting Helena's mom, you know, that's really what the story is about. So you have this past, and you learn pretty early on, pretty well, you could say the entire first act is sort of laying down the groundwork and the premise of the fact of this family dynamic. There's something weird going on. We don't really know what, at least not right away, until somebody comes in, accidentally sort of stumbles upon this cabin where they're living, and then of course the mom sort of makes a cry for help and sort of pleads with the person, saying that her and her daughter Helena needs to run away and needs to escape and get away from Jacob. And of course that's really where the story picks up, and that happens very early on, so that's not really a big spoiler or anything like that. And you end up learning very early on that Jacob and Helena, which is of course or Helena's mother, of course, that was actually a crime all within itself. Jacob basically kidnapped Helena's mom and then basically brought her to a secluded area, and then of course that's of course how Helena ends up coming to be. The dad does a really lot of bad things to the mom, and we end up learning that the mom was actually someone who was kidnapped by him. Now, after that, and all that happens in Act 1, so I'm not ruining the story by telling you that. So then as soon as we get past Act 1, then it sort of goes into Helena when she's grown up. She has her own family, and then of course that's really where the story goes on. Now, I will say that I really liked the ending of the story. I thought Act 3 was really good. I thought the opening act was pretty good as well, Act 1 and Act 3, but if I'm going to be honest, I will say that I found that the middle, Act 2, dragged on very, very long. I feel like they opened really strong with a very compelling story with some really compelling characters, and really had me, you know, intrigued. I was really excited to see how the story was going to unfold, especially when they reveal that, that Helena's mom really is, was actually someone who was kidnapped. So when they reveal all that, I thought that that was, you know, very interesting and stuff. But like I said, you know, obviously there's going to be a conflict again later on in the future. Like in the third act, there's going to be conflict as well. It's almost like Helena's past catches up to her, and now that's going to affect her future, so to speak. So it's like her past comes back around like full circle, and then now she needs to fight for her future, that so to speak. But in order to get there, you know, everything else that happens in between, you know, the introduction of her growing up, the introduction of her husband, and now her own two beautiful children, I just found that that part really went on for too long, and I honestly started to lose interest in that part of it. I really liked the thrilling side of it when it was actually thrilling. I loved Ben Mendelsohn every time he was on screen. I loved that weird dynamic that we had at the beginning where we knew something was off but we didn't know what, and I really loved the conflict at the end of it, you know, when, you know, basically, you know, Helena sort of has to face her past. But everything in between really made me lose my focus, and I really didn't care all that much about Helena growing up, or at least I didn't really care about her new family or her new children. And I don't mean that as in they weren't, you know, interesting, and I don't mean that as in like I didn't care, as in, you know, I just mean that I feel like the story in the middle got very sloppy, and to me it felt like almost like the pacing of the show was very inconsistent. But like I said, this stuff is subjective. Maybe you've seen it and loved it, but for me, I thought it got a little boring during the second act and trying to get to the end of the movie and all that good stuff. So if I had to put a number on the Marsh King, and I had to actually give this a number, I would give this a 60, excuse me, sorry, I would give this one a 60%, and just because, like I said, I did still significantly like it more than when I didn't like it, but I did also find that the middle was very long and very dragged out. And so, you know, like I said, I still liked the ending. I even thought the ending was done really well. I really liked the action in both the beginning and the ending. I just really couldn't, I really struggled to keep my interest during the middle. So anyways, folks, that's my review of The Marsh King's Daughter. Like I said, I didn't read the book. Maybe the book is phenomenal. Maybe I will read the book eventually, but for now I haven't read it. And so, like I said, my only exposure is this movie, and I thought it was like a mediocre movie. It wasn't great, it wasn't terrible, it was a 60% movie. And with that being said, folks, that's my review for The Marsh King's Daughter. So let me know your comments down below, and yeah, and if you want to, you know, help the channel, like, excuse me, like, share, and all that good stuff, help the algorithm, help us grow. Again, for the second time, I accidentally deleted the channel. We had just crossed 120,000 views, and I went and deleted everything, so that was totally my fault. So if you like this kind of stuff, click that subscribe button. And that's pretty well all I got. So until the next video, take care.